Imagine this, the person who drains your energy, who leaves you doubting yourself, isn't a stranger in the shadows. It could be someone you trust, someone who smiles at you every morning, someone who hugs you at family gatherings. Evil rarely shows up with horns and red eyes. It doesn't announce itself with thunder or lightning. Instead, it hides behind charm, silence, and subtle manipulation. That's what makes it so dangerous. Because the most destructive people are often the ones you least expect. Think back for a moment. Has there ever been someone in your life who made you feel small, like your opinions didn't matter, like your emotions were invalid, like your choices were always wrong? Maybe they didn't raise their voice. Maybe they didn't hit or scream. But somehow you always walked away from them feeling weaker, more confused, more controlled. That quiet erosion of your spirit, that is where evil begins. Today we're diving into something most people overlook, the hidden signs of truly evil people. Not the obvious villains in movies, but the ones who smile at you while slowly stealing your confidence. The ones who seem polite at dinner but plot behind closed doors. The ones who pretend to care yet secretly rejoice in your pain. And unless you know what to look for, you could spend years letting them pull your strings without even realizing it. But here's the truth: you don't have to live in the dark. Once you recognize these signs, you reclaim your power. You learn to guard your peace, to draw boundaries, and to walk away before they destroy more than just your trust. This knowledge is armor. And for anyone over 60, anyone who has lived through enough life to know the scars people can leave, this armor is essential. Because at this stage of life, peace of mind isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. The Stoics thousands of years ago already understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote about training the mind to stay calm in the face of deception. Epictetus reminded us that what harms us most is not what others do, but how we choose to respond. And Seneca warned against surrounding ourselves with those who corrupt our inner peace. These teachings are timeless. They remind us that evil is not just out there in the world. It often walks among us in the people we let closest to our hearts. That's why in this video, we'll uncover 10 hidden signs of evil people. Some will surprise you, some may even remind you of someone you know. But every single one of them is a warning, a signal that says protect yourself. Stay with me until the end, because the final sign is the one people ignore most, and yet it's the deadliest of all. So ask yourself right now, are you truly safe from the silent evil around you? Let's find out together. The subtle masks. Sign 1. Manipulation. Evil rarely begins with open attacks. It begins with gentle strings pulled one by one until you're moving exactly the way someone else wants. Manipulation is the silent art of control. Think of the times you've been persuaded to do something that went against your values, yet somehow you felt guilty if you said no. That's not persuasion, it's manipulation. Evil people are masters at twisting words, guilt-tripping, or presenting half-truths that leave you doubting your own judgment. For example, they may say, "If you really cared about me, you'd do this." Notice the trick. It turns your kindness into a weapon against you, and before long you realize you're walking on eggshells, afraid of disappointing them. True relationships are built on freedom, but manipulators thrive when you feel trapped. Recognizing this is the first step to cutting their strings. Sign 2. Charm as a mask. Here's a paradox: many evil people are charming. Not rude, not hostile, charming. They know how to flatter, how to impress, how to make you feel special. That charm works like a mask. It blinds you from seeing what's underneath. At first, they're the most attentive listener, the most helpful friend, the one who always makes you laugh. But slowly patterns emerge. Their charm doesn't come from genuine care, it's a performance designed to lower your guard. Think of a wolf dressed as a shepherd. The flock never suspects danger until it's too late. In the same way, false charm is how evil people sneak past our defenses. The Stoics would remind us, don't judge by appearances. Marcus Aurelius warned that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If someone's actions over time don't match their charming words, believe their actions. Charm fades, but truth always shows. Sign 3. Lies without conscience. If manipulation is the hook and charm is the bait, then lies are the net that keeps you trapped. Evil people lie easily without guilt, without hesitation. Sometimes the lies are small, changing details, shifting blame. Other times they're enormous, rewriting entire stories of what happened. What makes it frightening is not just the dishonesty, but the calm confidence with which they deliver it. They lie so smoothly you start questioning your own memory. Psychologists call this gaslighting, when someone makes you doubt your own reality. Imagine saying, "But I remember you promised this," only to hear that never happened. You're imagining things. Over time, this breaks down your trust in yourself. And when you can't trust your own judgment, you become fully dependent on theirs. That is exactly where evil wants you: powerless, confused, and controlled. These 3 masks, manipulation, charm, and lies, are the entry points. They're the soft whispers that lure you closer, the beautiful disguise that hides the danger beneath. But what happens when the mask slips? When the smile fades and the true nature reveals itself? Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll uncover the signs that reveal the emotional void inside truly evil people. The emotional void sign. 4. Lack of empathy. At the heart of every healthy relationship, whether it's friendship, family, or love, is empathy. The ability to feel with someone, to share their joy, to comfort their pain. But with truly evil people, empathy is missing. They don't cry when you cry. They don't celebrate when you succeed. Instead, they dismiss your feelings, or worse, they use them against you. Think of the times you've been vulnerable, sharing something that hurt deeply, only to hear you're overreacting, or "that's not a big deal." Words like that cut deeper than silence. They don't just ignore your pain, they erase it. And when someone erases your feelings long enough, you start erasing them yourself. You stop speaking up. You stop trusting your emotions. This absence of empathy is not just coldness. It's cruelty in disguise. The Stoics often spoke of the importance of compassion, even as they trained themselves to stay calm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." Notice he didn't say, avoid them. He said, recognize them. Lack of empathy is one of the clearest signals of such souls. Sign 5. Taking pleasure in pain. If lack of empathy is silence, then this sign is noise. Evil people don't just fail to feel your pain, they sometimes enjoy it. Maybe it's the sly smile when you stumble, the hidden satisfaction when you fail, or the subtle laugh when you're embarrassed. These are small cracks in their mask, but they reveal something chilling. Your suffering brings them a twisted sense of power. It might not always be obvious. Sometimes it's disguised as teasing, sarcasm, or just joking. But pay attention to how you feel afterward. Do you feel supported, or do you feel smaller? Evil feeds on weakness. When they see you hurting, they feel stronger. And that is why this sign is so dangerous. It exposes the dark engine behind their actions. True goodness rejoices in others' growth. Evil celebrates their fall. Once you see that pattern, you can never unsee it. Now we've uncovered the hollow core, the absence of empathy, and the disturbing delight in suffering. But the danger doesn't end here. Because when evil people lack feeling, they must find other ways to keep control. And that's when the hunger for power begins to rise. The power hunger sign 6. Obsession with control. Control is the oxygen evil people breathe. Without it, they feel powerless. That's why they constantly push to decide where you go, who you meet, even how you think. At first, it might look like care. I'm just trying to help you make better choices. But over time, it becomes suffocating. Suddenly, you're asking for permission for things you once did freely. This hunger for control is not love, and it's not guidance. It's domination. Evil thrives when others shrink. They want you to second-guess yourself, to depend on their approval before making a move. And if you resist, they react with anger, guilt trips, or punishment. The Stoics taught that real strength lies in self-mastery, not the mastery of others. Epictetus reminded his students, no man is free who is not master of himself. Evil inverts this wisdom, choosing to control everyone but themselves. If you find yourself losing your voice, your choices, or even your identity in someone else's shadow, recognize it for what it is, a power game. Sign 7. Never admitting fault. Another mark of power hunger is the inability to admit mistakes. For evil people, apologies feel like weakness. To say I was wrong means lowering themselves, and they will do anything to avoid that. Instead, they rewrite the story. They blame circumstances, or better yet, they blame you. Think back to moments where everything clearly pointed to their error, yet somehow by the end of the conversation you walked away feeling guilty. That's not coincidence. That's a tactic. Refusing to admit fault is how they stay untouchable. Their ego becomes a fortress, and truth has no way in. Contrast that with true wisdom. Seneca once wrote, "To err is human, but to persist in error is of the devil." Admitting mistakes is a mark of growth. Denying them relentlessly and shamelessly is a mark of corruption. When someone always wins, always shifts blame, always stands blameless while others carry the weight, beware. You are standing before pride in its most destructive form. We've now seen how evil craves power, controlling others and refusing accountability. But control alone isn't enough. To truly dominate, evil often uses fear as its sharpest weapon. The mask of fear, sign 8. Thriving on intimidation. Evil doesn't always shout, it whispers too. Sometimes it's a raised eyebrow, a long silence, a sudden slam of the door. Other times it's louder threats, yelling, or even physical presence used to make you feel small. Whatever the form, the goal is the same: fear. Fear is the leash they tie around your neck. When you live in fear, you hesitate. You doubt yourself. You second-guess every word before you speak. That hesitation is exactly what they want. It keeps you under their control. A Stoic like Seneca would remind us we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Evil people exploit that truth. They plant seeds of fear in your imagination, and soon you're policing yourself without them saying a word. That is how intimidation works. It chains you from the inside out. Sign 9. Gaslighting reality. Perhaps the most insidious weapon is gaslighting. Imagine describing a painful memory only to hear that never happened, or noticing their cruelty only to be told. You're imagining things. Gaslighting is not just lying, it's a systematic effort to erode your grip on reality. The more they repeat the denial, the more you begin to question yourself. Was I too sensitive? Did I misremember? Before long, your confidence in your own mind begins to collapse. And once you no longer trust your memory or perception, they have full control. Marcus Aurelius urged his readers to cling to reason like a lifeboat. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Evil flips this wisdom upside down. They twist truth until you can no longer recognize it. When someone constantly rewrites the past to suit themselves, when their story always changes but yours is always wrong, you are facing a master of fear. Intimidation chains your body. Gaslighting chains your mind. Together they create a prison you can't even see. But the story of evil doesn't end with fear. Because fear alone cannot fully enslave, it must also corrupt the very soul. The corrupted core, sign 10. Jealousy in disguise. Real support celebrates your wins. Corrupted souls do the opposite. They decorate envy as concern. It sounds like that's great, but don't get too excited, or I heard someone else did it better. On the surface, it's advice. Underneath, it's sand poured into your gears. Jealousy in disguise is dangerous because it makes you question your worth right when you should be growing. You shrink your dreams so others won't feel small. You dim your light so others won't complain it's too bright. But here's the hard truth: people who truly love you won't need you to be smaller to feel safe. Watch patterns, not isolated sentences. If praise always comes with a cut, if advice always ends in doubt, if your successes are consistently reframed as near failures, you're not being coached, you're being contained. A Stoic approach: hold your center. Measure yourself by your own standards of virtue, not by the insecurity of others. Say calmly, "Thank you for the feedback." Then continue your path without surrendering your momentum. Sign 11. Isolation is a weapon. Control grows in silence, and silence grows in isolation. Corrupted people nudge you away from your anchors. They don't really get you. Your family holds you back. Your friends are jealous. Each sentence seems protective. In time, you find yourself alone, relying on a single voice for reality. Isolation is not always loud. Sometimes it's 100 small suggestions that make you cancel plans, stop calling old friends, skip gatherings, and keep things private. Suddenly the room gets quiet, and in that quiet their influence gets loud. The antidote is deliberate connection. Rebuild your circle, even if slowly: one call, one coffee, one honest conversation. Let multiple truths touch your life again. The Stoics valued the community of the wise not as an echo chamber, but as a stabilizing field where reality is checked and courage is shared. Remember, people who want the best for you will never demand that they be the only ones who can reach you. Sign 12. The unrepentant heart: apologies heal, excuses harden. When confronted with harm, a corrupted person doesn't repair. They reframe. You're too sensitive. It wasn't that bad. If you hadn't done X. Their words redirect the spotlight away from responsibility and toward your supposed flaws. The danger isn't one bad day. It's the pattern: no remorse, no repair, no change. Without repentance, there can be no growth, only repetition. And repetition turns harm into identity. Marcus Aurelius advised us to be strict with yourself and tolerant with others, but tolerance doesn't mean agreeing to be hurt again. Tolerance without boundaries becomes consent to the same wound. How do you respond? First, switch from debate to data. Keep a simple log of events, dates, outcomes. This protects you from being talked out of what happened. Second, ask for a specific repair, not a performance. Here's what would restore trust. Third, watch the follow-through. Words without change are just tools of delay. If the pattern holds, step back. Distance is not revenge, it's respect for your life. If jealousy makes you smaller, isolation makes you silent, and lack of repentance makes you stuck, then the path forward is the opposite: grow, reconnect, and move. In the final section, gather everything you've learned into a calm plan you can carry tomorrow morning. Evil rarely enters as a storm. It arrives as a breeze, pleasant, helpful understanding. Then it asks for little things. Trust me. Don't tell them. Believe me over yourself. By the time you notice the weather changing, the house has shifted on its foundation. But you are not powerless. Awareness is armor. Boundaries are doors with working locks, and your peace is sacred ground worth defending without apology. What to do next? Quiet, practical steps. 1. Name what you're seeing. Give each sign a label. Naming turns fog into a map. 2. Test reality with trusted people. Share one concrete example with a friend or counselor. Let multiple perspectives steady you. 3. Set one clear boundary. Short, calm, specific: I won't continue this conversation if you raise your voice. Repeat once, then act. 4. Measure behavior, not promises. Change shows up on the calendar, not in declarations. 5. Rebuild the self you abandoned. Return to routines that anchor you: sleepwalks, journaling, faith, community service. Integrity loves structure. The Stoics didn't teach us to fear people. They taught us to master our responses. You can't control who wears a mask, but you can control whether you hand them the keys to your mind. Keep your circle small and your standards clear. Choose companions by their consistent actions, not their most beautiful words. If this message helped you see your life more clearly, share it with someone who might still be trapped in confusion. Your share could be the moment their fog begins to lift. And if you want more guides like this, subscribe, tap the bell, and comment "I see the signs." Not as a slogan, but as a reminder your clarity is returning, your peace is worth protecting, and your future is yours again. Breathe, stand tall, walk in light.